This segment sponsored by homebrewtalk.com. Join us and talk about your homebrew ideas, questions, recipes, or anything else to help with your homebrewing enjoyment. Hello everyone, my name's Gary. I'm a beer snob. Gary! Yes, I am a beer snob. I love craft beer, and I like to drink my beer out of a nice glass. So I thought we'd get into discussion about some of the modern beer glass. But first, I'm going to wind back time a little bit and tell you a little story. Back probably quite a while ago, well, I still had hair. My idea was drinking beer straight out of the bottle, and this had to be as cold as I could get it. Well, then I ended up getting a job in Europe, and I had to learn how to drink beer as told to me, you're going to drink it warm. The idea of drinking warm beer was truly repulsive to me. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do when I'm over in the old country? Well, I have a couple little treasures that I brought back because I discovered something. We weren't talking necessarily warm beer. We were talking room temperature beer, and room temperature there usually is a little cooler. These are some of the treats that I came home with. A little piece from Germany. Spent a lot of time in Germany and sure love their beers. And my pewter tankard that a very, very special gentleman in England who worked for the Rolls-Royce factory as one of their head engineers gave me to enjoy with my beer. But I actually found out, and I didn't care for the handles. So I don't use them to drink. Let's talk a little beer temperature. I can remember, again, when I had hair, there was a store in town that touted its beer as the coldest beer in town. They kept their thing at almost freezing, and you'd go buy a cold beer, it's 100 degrees out, and my gosh, this beer was wonderful. Of course, it had no taste. And I soon discovered beer that's really, really cold, okay, that's the kind of beer you don't want to taste. Because if you do, you aren't going to like it. And that's kind of like, I don't know, 32, 39 degrees, somewhere in that range. That's really cold. But a little higher temperatures starts to bring some flavors out. And we're talking, let's say, the low 40s to 45 degrees. Great for doing ones such as Kölsch or Hefeweizen or one of those kind of beers. And especially in the hot summer, it's great because it's so refreshing. But then we need to raise our temperatures a little bit more. And I think you can even do this as a test. Find yourself a beer you really, really like and get it real cold. Then try it. Then let it warm up a little more. Try it again. Let it warm up some more. Try it again. You're going to find that it has different tastes all the way up. And a little bit warmer and a little bit warmer, you're going to find the flavors actually come out and are more enjoyable. Well, personally, I like most of my beers somewhere around 55 degrees. And our porters, the IPAs, your nice brown ales, all of those really do come alive somewhere around 55 degrees. I mean, if you want 53 or 52 or a little more, it's your choice. And of course, we all know beer temperatures truly are a personal choice. Some people are just, I'm going to have it cold and that's all there is to it. Well, even a little higher than 55 degrees is how I like my barley wines or my really old stock ales or the really lovely heavy Scotch beers. I like those clear up about 60 degrees. And of course, these are sipping beers. And oh, the flavor explodes in the mouth. So that's just a little bit about temperatures. So now, let's talk about some glassware to put this beer in. Now, I'm sure there's hundreds of beer glasses out there. different styles. People collect them, which I think is very cool. But we're only going to talk about just a few today. There'll be more maybe down the road. First one we're going to talk about is a Pilsner. Did you guys realize this Pilsner glass shape has existed since the Middle Ages? But it didn't become really popular until the 1930s when Art Deco came about and the angular shapes made it fit in perfect. Well, one of the things about the Pilsner glass is its thin design. And that thin design allows us to see the beautiful colors of the beer. And this magnificent head. I think our beer was a little warm. But you can also see the bubbles coming up. The fluted design helps with the support of the head. And this is an extremely popular beer in the summer times for pale ales and wheat beers. Well, the next glass we're going to look at is a Weissbier vase. And if you'll notice, the design really is very similar to a Pilsner. It's just a little more curvaceous. Starts small at the bottom. Top is large to hold our foamy head. And let's see what we can do with this bottle. By the way, this one won't be so bad. This one happens to be Frog Lips out of my own brewery. And of course, trying to make a great head after filling a bottle. There we go. So, again, the thin style lets you see the beautiful color of the beer, the lovely bubbles, and the wide top holds the head. When you get into your big beers, your barley wines, your old stock ales, your big beers, those are sipping beers. For me, I love to use a glass like this. Now they make different variations, like the tulip glass comes up and then flares out at the top. This basically could be a wine glass. And isn't that what we're doing, is we're just sipping these delightful big beers. For me, there's nothing finer than sipping a delightful big beer, particularly in the winter. Ooh, look at this one. With someone that you care about. And remember, for you big burly guys, get that little pinky out there when you're doing the sipping. So continuing with our discussion of beer glassware, we're of course getting into the tasting room. And we have two delightful beers today. This segment is brought to you by To Design Art. Check them out. Buttons below. Remember, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, guys. And don't you all need some more brewing equipment? You know what I mean. Well, today we had a viewer made a suggestion that if we had a home brewer send us in a type of beer, could we find a commercial similar beer that we might do a little comparison? And we have done so. And I'm kind of excited. I love you guys' home brews. I still think home brews are the finest beers that have ever been made. Well, our first one is by a gentleman named Chris Monroe. Chris is out of Carlsbad, New Mexico. And Chris has been brewing all grain for about 8 years. And he says, on his quote, cobbed together system, that seems to work. Well, he calls it his Holiday Spice Stout. He's thrown in cinnamon, allspice, cloves, some ginger. It sounds pretty nice to me, and it's a stout. His alcohol content is just about 7%, and he has no idea what his international bittering units are, but they're low. So, Chris, we're going to give yours a try. And we're going to be using a glass that I have to say, this glass, it's called a shaker glass. It didn't start out as a beer glass. It started out as a cocktail mixing glass in which they would put a metal container on top and shake it up. You still see it happen in many bars. But it has turned out to be a great beer glass. And I know the brewery I like to frequent uses this style quite a bit. So, oh, nice and dark. I'm liking what I'm seeing, Chris. Oh, the smells are magnificent. Got a beautiful head. Let's see, we could talk about the taper of the glass. That then supports the beautiful head, which in this case is a lovely chocolate color. Well, I can smell the herbs that you've added. Particularly, you have the little cloves, cinnamon. Well, let's give this a try. Okay, I really like this. I find that the spices, wow, the spices are quite subtle compared to what I can smell. I was expecting a little bit more intense spice. Wasn't really sure I wanted it. And what I find is this is really mellow. And Chris, when you said you didn't know what your IBUs were, you figured they were going to be nice and low. I'm going, well, it's probably going to come out a little too sweet. Not happening. This tastes really, really good. I think the cloves that you added helped with the tempering of the sweetness. This is delicious. Well, our next beer is from a brewery that we've talked about many times. Mylands. This is their Christmas special. And they're out of Novato, California. I had such a delightful conversation with the head brewer, who is a lovely lady. And I just got so excited by her enthusiasm for making beers hers. Well, before I pour, the last glass we're going to discuss is my favorite of all beer glasses. This is an English tulip glass. And like I said, it's my favorite, probably because I experienced so many of these glasses when I was in Europe. Lovely curvaceous sides that folds in, obviously holds the head real well. And look at this beer. I absolutely love the list of spices that they're using in their White Christmas lager. Okay, orange zest, mace, cinnamon, coriander, and white pepper. You wouldn't have thought of those right away, but this is a beautiful lager. And I love the smell. There is a distinct difference between the smell of an ale and a lager. There's such a difference. Well, let's give this a taste. This is delightful. You can definitely taste the white pepper, which is just, when I first thought white pepper, this is really nice. Well, this is a lovely lager. You can see it's a beautiful color. Had a great white head, and this was delicious. So now let's get down to the big thumbs up for these guys. I'm not a major lager fan. I had to admit it. This is good. I would drink it again, but for this rating, I'm giving it 1 thumbs up. Give it a try. I think some of their other beers are a little better. Okay, Chris, Your homebrew, I really did like it. It's quite delightful. Well, no question, we're doing 2 thumbs up for you, Chris. Really am enjoying that. And oh, one last beer container, beer glass that I have to share. You've all heard me talk about the Crew. I had to be careful with them drinking too much, so this has now been designated as the Crew's glass.